Hey people. So, I wanted to do this video because I think it's extremely timely, even though you don't know why, but it is extremely timely. And I really don't want to get into why it's extremely timely, you just trust me, it is. For anybody who has actually spoken to me and has had time to actually learn anything about me knows that I was married. Hands down, the biggest mistake in my life. I look back and I can say that there was fun moments, but it was a huge, huge mistake. One I plan to never make again. Not going to say that for certain. Not going to say that definitely. I just look at my life the way it is, and I just don't see me doing it. Now, what I want to talk about is, I'm not going to give times or dates or names because that's irrelevant to what I have to say. I'm smoking right now because I'm trying to relax and get this, because this is a hard thing for me to discuss. I got married to one of my slaves, and I was young, and the marriage lasted about 5 years. And I knew that within about 6 months that something was wrong. And I'm not against marriage. Let me just make that very clear. I'm not against marriage as an idea. If you want to get married and you can find a person who loves you and allows you to be you, and you can find a person that you can love and you can allow them to be them, awesome. My mom and dad are still married. Okay, my mom and dad, I'm one of the lucky few that grew up with both of my parents. So, when I got married to my slave, in the beginning it was great. It was awesome. But then things started to change. The way that she was acting towards me and the way I was acting towards her started to change. After about a year, I got really miserable. The master-slave dynamic had pretty much disappeared. This was not to say that I was not involved in the lifestyle. I had other girls during that time. So I was able to fulfill my need to be a master, but then I had my wife. And then it got abusive. And not from my end. It started going into this thing where no matter what I did, I was wrong. Now, before we got married, when I was her master and she was my slave, this was not the dynamic. And it got really bad. Any of my friends who were around at that time can attest to this. she started to drink, and she was a drug and alcohol counselor, so she could justify everything that went on. We there wasn't much drinking in the house. Barely ever had alcohol. And then all of a sudden, about a year to a year and a half in the relationship, alcohol kept showing up in the house. Part of that was my fault because of my job. I had access to companies that I got products from, and one of the companies I dealt with was a company that dealt with alcohol. And so we would get in bottles of Southern Comfort and Wild Turkey and, pretty much most of anything coming out of that, part of the region, the whiskeys and the bourbons and so on. Occasionally some vodka. Never any tequila, but a lot of the whiskeys and the bourbons and stuff like that. And I didn't think it was a big issue at the time. I thought, oh, okay, cool. I got, this alcohol. I'll take it home. When we go out with friends, we'll, bring a couple bottles. This will be great. This will be awesome. And then the bottles started disappearing. I would have 4 bottles. 2 would disappear. She wound up losing her job. And so I was the sole support of the house. And when I got home at night, dinner was not made, the house wasn't clean, and she was there just watching TV with a glass of something in her hand, and I did something or I said something, and she just started to insult me. She would call me all kinds of names. On more than one occasion, she threatened me by saying, I could kill you, and just claim that you were abusing me, and I could get away with it. And all this time, I kept thinking, I love this woman. I love this woman. I want her to be happy. I want her to be happy, but I was miserable. Me trying to make her happy made me miserable. And when I talk about the stuff that I talk about, when I talk about, saying you need to be happy, it doesn't matter how much you love somebody. If you're miserable, get out. I did this for 5 years. 5 years of my life were wasted on this woman who, not only would she constantly insult me and constantly belittle me, and not just in private, in front of friends, in front of, she didn't do it around my family, but my family definitely knew what was going on. She would get mad and hurl heavy objects at me. And I, instead of realizing what was going on, just went, oh, it must be my fault, oh, I love you, and then turn around and just go and be miserable. And then on that rare occasion, I'd be able, on a weekend or on an occasion, I'd wind up having a girl that I could go play with. And that would relieve some of the stress. 3 times. 3 times she came at me with a knife. 3 times. And I loved her so much that I forgave her all 3 times. One of the times, the only reason I am actually here right now is because I had a friend in the house who when my back was to to my wife, screamed, "Oh my God, turn around, she has a knife." I know what I'm talking about when I talk about not wanting, living in a marriage where you're miserable, where the master-slave dynamic is gone, where you think that you love the person, but yet you can't be you. You can't do what you got into the marriage in the first place. Why were you got into the relationship in the first place? Why did you get in this relationship in the first place? When I got in the relationship with her, I did not get in there to be her boyfriend. I did not get in there to be her husband. I was there to be her master. She was there to serve me and make me happy, and my job was to make sure that she served me and that she was being happy in her service. That was it. That was all there was. But as soon as we got married, things started changing. And I'm not going to say that if you're married that you can't keep the master-slave dynamic. I know several couples that have a master-slave dynamic and who are married, and their marriage is awesome, and I applaud them. I applaud them for what they're able to accomplish. But the thing I want people to get out of this is, if you're in a marriage and you're not happy, I don't care if it's vanilla, I don't care if it's if it's kinky, I don't care if it's straight, I don't care if it's gay, I don't care what it is. If you're in a marriage and you're not happy, get out now. Pull the trigger. Leave. Yes, it's going to suck. It's going to be horrible. It's going to hurt like hell. But the end, you're going to be happier. You'll at least have the option of finding something and someone to make you happy. And if you're miserable, and your only thing that you have to hold on to is love, what kind of love is that? What kind of love is it when you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't give a fuck about your happiness? Who doesn't care about whether you're happy or not? If you're in a marriage and you're not happy, leave. If you're not ready to talk to your partner, tell them you're not happy, that you miss this and you want this. And if they say, so what, there's your opportunity to say, you know what, fuck you, I'm gone. And it's scary. Yes, having to separate all the furniture, and yes, splitting everything up, and dealing with, the shit with the kids, and I didn't have to deal with that, thankfully, but I understand that it's hard. I understand it's difficult. I understand it's not fun. But your life's going to be better on the other side. You're not going to be miserable anymore. And you'll find love again. You'll find somebody who understands you and accepts you for you, and is willing to accept the fact that you want something. And if they understand and they're willing to give it to you, and you fall in love with them, awesome, great. But don't use this "but I love him" mentality. Do you know who the only people I hear that from? It's people who are in abusive relationships. And I'm sorry, if your partner is not allowing you to be happy and leaves you miserable, but yet you love them, that's abusive. It's been a long time since I've been out of my marriage. I still think about it. It still hurts. That I allowed myself to do the stuff I did. That I allowed myself to care for a woman who could give a crap about me. Who could care less about my feelings and my emotions and my needs. No, it was all about her and her wants. I was 95% wrong, according to her. Now that I'm on my own, I'm wrong. It's a hell of a lot less than 95%. If you're not happy in your marriage, don't use love as an excuse. Get out. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck for a while. But eventually things will work out better. You'll find somebody who makes you happy. Whether you want to believe my story or not, it's the truth. I try to come on here and tell everybody the truth about who I am and what I am. And this is a story that I haven't gotten into. But I can tell you, and I'm just from the bottom of my heart, from everything that I have, love is not worth being miserable. Love is not worth being sad. If you're to a point where trying to commit suicide is a way out of your marriage, I'm sorry. You've got to think again. You've got to move on. If being sad all the time and miserable all the time and longing for just the touch of another human being, it's time to move on. Life is short. Life is complicated. Find your happiness. And if you're in a situation where you're miserable, love does not hold things together. That's it for now. Be well and safe.